Caroline, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Can you start by sharing with our listeners who you are and what is your wedding business? What do you do? How are you in our industry?
Hi, Kelly. My name's Caroline. Hi, everybody. My name's Caroline. I have a wedding venue in the Lake District. It's a very, very small and intimate wedding venue, and we specialise mainly in tiny weddings, micro weddings, really, and elopements, all fully exclusive use.
I love it. Gorgeous. And has weddings been your thing your whole life, or how did you get into the industry?
I've always dabbled with it. So I do say that I've been in the industry for 30 years, teetering around the edges. I made my first wedding dress when I was 17. So I actually grew up wanting to be a designer and a jet setter across the world designing. So that's what my trade was in. And I went to college to do fashion design and textiles, and I was sewing like my mum all my life. So I have, I grew up with a sewing machine. And I was teaching the teachers how to sew. So my passion really is in bridal wear. That's where I started. And so I went to college to pursue that, found out that actually it's very tricky as an industry to work in. And so I got a real job in industrial engineering, but still in the rag trade. Yeah, proper job, working for Courtaulds Textiles, but still in the rag trade. So I was still with my passion of textiles. So I did that until I was 27, and then I went self-employed simply because I was made redundant. So I bought myself an industrial sewing machine, and that triggered me to then develop my own business. First of all, making curtains, then making, posh curtains, swags and tails as they were back in the 80s. Do you remember those?
My mum had those all over our house. Yes.
So I would go all over Nottingham. I lived in Nottingham at the time, so I'd go all over Nottingham, doing posh drapes for people, and word of mouth spread. And then I'd do dresses, special occasion wear. Then, of course, I wanted to do wedding dresses because obviously that was where the markup was going to be, because I was making bespoke bridal wear for people. And then I eventually opened my own shop. And I had a business in Nottingham doing bridal wear retail and bridal design, bespoke bridal wear, for a number of years before moving up to the Lake District. So I was in the wedding industry, and I also was doing web design because I like to do it all. So I was learning computer web design in the 90s, and I had my own online shop called Just Brides Limited in Nottingham in the 90s, believe it or not.
That's very early for the online shopping.
Learning about SEO in 1998. So I've been doing SEO for a long, long time.
So that's quite interesting, because you've got that creative side, but also that tech side. That's not usually something that comes together.
Yeah, absolutely, which is why I didn't want to go and just, I didn't want to do A levels and traditional, go get a degree like my two older brothers. I wanted to do something very creative. And although, yes, we're all intelligent, it isn't where my passion was. I wanted to be a fashion designer, and that's where I'm pretty stubborn. And I usually get what I want because I'll chase it. And so that's what I did. But I still ended up going back doing exams and things later on in life, because I still did management studies, and I did a diploma in management studies with Courtaulds Textiles. And of course, they were paying me to go to college at that point, which is brilliant. So I've always followed.
I'm just going to pause you there.
I love education.
I love what you just said about, you go after what you want and you usually get it. Because I know we connect on that kind of thought process of, if you want something, just move.
You have to go and get it.
And I think, right?
You need to focus on it. You need to imagine it, and you need to do it. And it is hard work. But actually, if you're passionate about something, it's not really difficult work, is it? It's just, sometimes you just really have to keep going at it. It's not easy. You have to make things happen.
But there's not that many people in the world who have that genuine mentality. And I think, we see a lot of people who think that things should just happen overnight, or just come to them, or because they have a product, people should just buy from them. But, what I've seen with you and what we're hearing from you is actually, no, you have to go. You have to go build it. You have to go get it.
Absolutely. And it was really difficult. And then we ended up moving up to the Lake District, and I had to leave it all behind. So I sold my wedding shop. I did bring my online business with me. So I was running an online bridal wear accessory business from the Lake District, but also then running a tea room and a bed and breakfast. So I morphed into hospitality as well as doing retail online stuff at the same time.
You already had a good understanding of the couples or the brides, for sure, because you were dealing with them. So you were getting
and the mothers of the brides, and long-term contracts and difficult customers. Well, not difficult,
Emotional. It's
discerning couples that would come from all over the country to see me. So I used to exhibit at the NEC, you know, at the National
yeah,
Wedding Show, up against the big boys.
yeah.
And a little tiny designer in Nottingham that could barely afford to be there, literally, you know, you were literally stretching your credit card to do that. But actually got a spot on this stage with do you remember the clothes show at the time? The
Yeah.
lady who hosted the clothes show, a number of my very extreme, very brightly coloured dresses, because I used to do very unusual coloured dresses, black dresses, dark golds and reds. They were up on the catwalk, and so I was spotlighted when it was there. And people used to come and see me from all over the country, even though they might well have been buying a retail gown. And I'd say to them, you can buy this in Cornwall. You don't have to come to Nottingham, you know. And even then people would shock me and say, yeah, but we trust you. We want to come and buy it from you.
People
And we're
buy
going to
from
drive all the
people.
way from Cornwall to see you. I was like astounded, because that wasn't one of my pieces. It was another designer's that I was selling at the time. So yeah, I
So
got
how
on really well with
do you
people.
now own a wedding venue? So we understand that
Oh,
you
right.
understood all the emotional net and you understood the industry, but now you own a venue. That's quite a jump.
Well, I didn't intend owning a venue at the time. My husband and I at the time had the opportunity to move to Cote Howe, which is a very special house. And so I said no initially, and then we came up and spent a bit of time here and did an event here to help out with an event. And I realised how much passing trade there was here, how easy it was going to be to market this place. So we changed our minds and we moved up in January 2006 with my two children from Nottingham. And then it was a B&B, but we had to renovate it all. So in the meantime, I opened a tea room to try to catch the walkers that were walking by, because it's right in the centre of the Lake District, a really, really popular walk. And so we would invite people into the house that were like, oh, amazed, just to try to promote the B&B. We then opened the B&B in the Easter and got that going. And that ran really well for a couple of years. And then, yeah, 2008, 2009, my main customer, we were an organic B&B with organic status, soil association license, because we don't do it by halves. We had to get licensed. I also had a manufacturing license. I was making jams and chutneys and selling them. I was making cakes and selling them, all with an organic soil association label on it. So that really mattered to us to make sure, you know, people understood, because we only had a 3-bedroom B&B. And we cottoned on, hey, we've got to get the best bed, the best breakfast, the best of everything in the best location, and people will pay for it. Yeah. So we were the most expensive B&B, like we're probably the most expensive wedding venue in the Lake District, because we hone in on a niche market. So our niche market were probably the independent travellers who, you know, were the people that were coming to the lakes 3-4 times a year. They'd come back every 3 months because they could sleep here. They loved it. They could relax here. They could chill out here. So I had regular customers, and the world fell out of the bottom fell out of the market, didn't it? 2008, 2009. All my independent people all got very scared, I think, and basically the trade was gone. And also the tea room, although that was getting busy, it was such hard work and it was so fickle, because if it rained, you wouldn't see anybody because we were on a walking path. If then it's sunshine the next day and you ran out of food, you'd be criticised because you just had run out of stuff. It was so difficult to plan. And I just so wanted people to see more of the grounds. We've got beautiful grounds, a beautiful location. And we used to sit in the grounds and think, do you know, people come here, but they're either asleep or they're out walking the fells. They don't actually sit in the garden for very long. The people in the tea room enjoyed it more than the B&B people. So I always wanted to open it as a small, intimate wedding venue and do it really, really well. So I got divorced, which was quite a challenge, in 2009, and then changed everything around to what I wanted to do. Exactly. So I took a few risks, invested a bit of money. Sadly, my mum passed away, invested a bit more money, and then got the barn renovated, got the spaces ready, got my license lined up, started showing people around, and things were starting to go really, really well. Got to about 2017. So we're on quite a lot now. We started doing weddings in 2012. It took quite a while to get it up and running.
Yep.
And then my new partner, Steve, who I've been with for 10 years, I say new partner, he joined the business in 2017. So we knew that we could afford for 2 of us to start working the business, and that was a big help for me. And then we were just about to have our best year ever with the most bookings at the beginning of the year, and COVID struck, didn't it? Of course it did. And we used to do fairly small weddings at that point, so 50 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did start out with the 70s and the 80s, but we soon realised they weren't our market. That's not what we wanted. We wanted really for it to be more of a primarily small family weddings, food biased, not nightclub biased. Older generations, potentially more the demographic of the people that would enjoy the Lake District. And if you really wanted, you know, a nightclubby type of wedding, it's not here. We're a beautiful rustic kind of place. And although we had a barn, it was very small. So we actually downsized quite a lot from 80 to 70 to 60 to 50. We got to a point where we were at 32 pre-COVID, thinking this is quite nice. And then, of course, COVID hit, but we were primarily, although the first 6 months was obviously treacherous for everybody, not knowing if you were going to survive, and it was so difficult. I mean, I turned grey, literally. A bit longer than that, but you know, I felt like I aged 10 years that year. It was so hard. However, we regrouped. We said, right, what can we do? What can we build? And build from the bottom up. How can we make this robust so that whenever Boris changes his mind, we can actually give our couples some confidence that we're only going to sell what we can sell right for now, but you can bolt on extras later.
Yeah.
So you could add on a few more people. If 15 was allowed to be 30, that was fine. But we decided then that we were going to downsize even more to 24 because we knew that this was safe, but also it's where we wanted to be long term. So we reinvested again in all of the furniture. We upgraded everything so everybody has a beautiful armchair with a nice cushion outside. Everything's very nice. Everything's very deliberate. And also because we've got the house rooms are fairly small compared to the barn, at least everyone can fit in these rooms. Whereas if you had 50, 60, you couldn't. You were a bit more disjointed if it did rain. And of course it rains a lot, doesn't it?
And Caroline, what does your business look like today? So you've moved the numbers around, you've worked out who your ideal people are. What does it look like today in terms of numbers and your ideal couple?
Okay, well, mainly we do the majority we will do is 24 people. However, very popular, just two people, literally. So we have, and it used to be a third of our business would be elopes pre-COVID. And a third of our business would be sort of small, because we'll just do an afternoon wedding. We don't need the whole day. We'll just do a half day. And we call that a micro wedding, short but sweet. And then we'll do a day wedding and some overnights with our 3 bedrooms. It used to be a third. It changed dramatically through COVID. And because we'd always been advertising as being a small venue with exclusive use, we were now perfectly placed for those people that wanted 15 people or 20 people or whatever. So that grew, and that is still continued to grow. Now elopements are like 60% of our business. So it's been a huge shift in the amounts that we're doing for each. And that's fine, we're adapting to that. But we adapt every 3 months, we'll dream up a new package. So we're finding that you have to really, really hone in on your unique USP, whatever that might be. For example, we've been doing a lot of elopements with young couples that want to elope with their children, but they want to keep it a secret. And of course, they can't tell the parents or ask the parents to babysit. So we've developed a little ones package that actually includes the toddlers. And I had a lovely conversation with somebody last week who said, you know, I never realized how many elopement venues there are now in the Lake District. But actually, nobody actually includes the children as part of that ceremony, and you provide for the children, and that takes a lot of pressure off us. And then we're there always to help them. You know, have you been to the lakes before? Do you know where you're staying? You do this. This is what other couples do. And a lot of what we do is service oriented, and it's very much about we'll hold your hand, we'll guide you. So it's not just the wedding. They get to know me and Rachel intimately. We're here actually witnessing their wedding. We don't change staff. I live here. I've got nowhere to go. And they know that. They trust me, you know, that I'm always going to be here for you. And that's really makes a difference.
What's one of your favorite moments or pieces of your day-to-day now with the weddings you're doing? And is there a moment in the process that you're just like, I love this bit?
Well, there's a lot of moments actually. I still cry at virtually every wedding. You can't help yourself, can you? Because you've become so attached to these couples, you know, and they're on the end of the phone pretty much, you know, whenever they've got a problem, they'll turn to me. So you are really invested in, you know, all their stories, you know, how they met, you know, how they got engaged. You become like a friend. So I do get very, very emotional. And of course, we witness most of them. So because most of them are eloped, we're actually there. And I do say, you know, that signature could be famous one day, you know. So that's my favourite bit. And then afterwards, you know, when you hand them a drink and give them a hug, oh, it's done kind of thing. That's brilliant. We love the confetti shot because we always get it wrong and have a good laugh. Doesn't the wind always go the wrong way? We always have a laugh with them, and it's so lovely. And when they go, I really don't want them to go. It's like when your friends leave, you know, after a lovely weekend. So yeah, you
And
just get invested.
from a business perspective, if there were wedding pros listening right now, what's just one, I know you've gone through lots of different ups and downs, but what's one challenge you think, you know, you've really learned from, or something that really kind of transformed the way you thought about the business?
No one thing actually, other than, and it's something I do all the time, I'm constantly pivoting. I'm constantly thinking about what is stopping my people from booking. What are the barriers and what can I do to help? How can I make their problem go away? So I am constantly thinking, right, so you don't know the Lake District. Oh, this is what most couples do. This is where you can stay. This will help you with your flowers. We'll help you with this. We'll help you with that. Most of my couples, like 95%, do not live locally. They're all going to come because we're a destination venue. So everybody is going to be packing the car. I send them a little email the week before, a little email the night before with little tips, you know, don't forget to do this, don't forget to do that. We've got you back. Give us a ring when you're on the road. Let us know how you're doing. So it's
You've
always thinking
pinpointed something
about
really
what else
smart
can we
there.
do?
Yeah,
Pardon?
exactly. You pinpointed something super smart. Exactly. What else can we do? Because how many people do we hear saying, oh, it's so hard, the market's so hard, I'm just going to sit here and drink wine and watch Netflix. And instead, you know, there are other people on the other side of the coin, like your good self, who are going, what can I do to make some changes? How
Yeah.
can I help them more? How can I serve my people more? How can they find me better? And it's that mentality that keeps you moving and more successful and always coming up with these new fabulous ideas.
Yeah. And I'm learning as well that actually, when you're doing your marketing, you really have to talk to specific segments of the market. And they might be tiny segments. It might be the walkers. It might be the bird spotters. It might be the toddlers. It might be the young couples that want to go on an adventure. And you need to talk to each of them differently. And you need to actually create something for them in terms of a package. Because in the past, I never used to package anything. I used to tell everybody, you can have whatever you like. But that didn't help them because they didn't know where to start. Now I've packaged things and priced things, so they've got an idea of actually what I can do. But I always say to people, you know, we can do a bit of this and a bit of that. It doesn't matter, as long as you know what I can do for you. But actually, sometimes I'll say to people, you know, tell me your budget and be honest about it. If you want me to design the best wedding I would do with that money and what are your key things, I will put that down on paper for you as a bespoke thing and see what you think. So, but I always start with the packages now, but then I'm learning that my packages have got to speak to different people. So I've got an adventurers elope, as well as an indulgers elope, as well as a little ones elope, and as well as a runaways, you know, and they're all at different price points, but they all appeal to different types of people.
I love that. And if there is a wedding professional right now listening to our conversation, what's been in your, you know, you've had a hugely varied career and obviously huge amounts of experience in different industries as well. What's a piece of business advice that sort of always stays in your mind that you maybe heard or you learned yourself, or what's one piece of business advice you'd share with them?
One thing that I've always stuck by is never, ever stop learning. You don't know it all. You keep learning. And I've chased that ever since I was a little girl. I am inquisitive. I ask lots of questions. I need to understand things and then I can roll with it. But even through my career, you know, with Courtaulds, I would always go for a job that was going to educate me, so long as I could carry on educating myself. And I think the best thing that I've done, particularly since COVID, is invested in myself. Before, I didn't have the money to do it, Kelly, because I really struggled through all of it. And it's only when I've started investing in myself and started putting the money in that rather than infrastructure that I've actually seen a huge shift in my business, in actually educating myself and spending money on me. I know it felt like I couldn't afford to do that before. It felt like it had to be, you know, some marketing, or it had to be new furniture, or it had to be something physical. But actually the biggest amount of money that I probably spend these days is probably on education, whether that's for me or my staff or whatever. Because I think that's really been the pivotal thing to keep me going and to keep me motivated as well.
And you're so right. We don't know it all. It's a constant. I heard this phrase a while back. I can't remember who said it, that lifelong learner. And I heard that phrase and I thought, yes, I align with that so much. I
Yeah.
prefer learning now more than I ever did when I was at school.
Yeah. And you never know what you don't know.
Right? It's always such a surprise, isn't it, when you uncover something new and you're like, where has this been my whole life?
Yeah, absolutely. So no,
So,
it's been brilliant. Yeah,
and
brilliant. So I've learned a lot.
following on from that, you're obviously part of our inner circle, T&L. What would you say to wedding pros who are thinking about maybe investing or they're worried? What would you say to them if they're thinking about joining us?
Oh, I definitely do it. I think I'm on my year 2 now. So I've carried on from year 1 to year 2, and I wouldn't be without it. The resources that you get are just overwhelming. There's so much of it. There really is so much of it. But because you keep going back through stuff and reimagining the same stuff again, we can re-practice and redo it. And because a lot of it is with a community, I think having the community makes a huge difference. And actually, when we all met up in October, that was just amazing to put faces to everybody. But you just know that you've got people out there that have got you back, where you've got a private group where you can discuss things, where you know that everybody is telling the truth for a kickoff. Don't you just hate it when everybody just hides from what's really going on? But we're all very, very supportive. And there's things in there that I was scared of doing. And there was things there that I was resisting doing for years that I actually did, i.e. pricing wise and that kind of stuff. But I'm so, so glad. I wouldn't have had the confidence to do it on my own, and it helps me because although I've got my partner, that's quite, you need somebody else. It can't just be you and your partner because you get stagnated. You need to have those other ideas and you need to have that continuing education, which is what we get from you. But also the challenges, because I love a challenge. Who doesn't? I mean, if I could go for it, a challenge that really motivates me. And it doesn't matter that I've done it all before and that I've wrote it all down again. I will still go through those exercises and I will still write it all down again because it refreshes me and then it reinvigorates me to actually say, oh, well, I've not visited that for a few years. I need to redo that. That needs redoing. That needs refreshing. Yeah. So there's always constantly loads to do, loads.
And Caroline, if people have been listening to our conversation and they're keen to connect with you, follow you, maybe send you a message about something, obviously people listening will be planners, vendors, suppliers, maybe other venues nearby. Where do they find you? Which platforms are you?
Okay. So our Instagram, Facebook is all Cote Howe Lake District Weddings.
And how do we spell that? COTE?
Yeah, then HOW,
Perfect.
and then Lake District Weddings, all
Love
one word. And pretty much find us there, or you could call us or just Google us, because we're always number 1 on Google.
Woo!
So if you just put in Elopement Weddings, Lake District, just see who comes up.
And I know you're always open to expand your network and your community,
Absolutely.
especially in weddings. So if anyone's listening and they want to connect with you, I'm sure you're super open to that.
Absolutely, yes. I love to chat to people and help people.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time, Caroline. We've loved hearing a
Very
little bit about
welcome.
your journey and we really appreciate everything you've shared with us. Thank you.